The cat looked at the cracker, looked at my coworker, and just walked away. And that's when it hit me. Some of the most painful people in my life didn't reject me because I didn't have anything to offer. They rejected me because they weren't hungry for what I was offering. And if you ever loved somebody, helped somebody, supported somebody, or encouraged somebody, only to be ignored or taken for granted, or even left wondering why your best never seemed to be enough, then this episode might explain more than you actually realize. Because sometimes the problem isn't what you're offering. Sometimes the problem is appetite. And one of the hardest lessons you ever have to learn is this. You cannot make somebody hungry, no matter how much you care, no matter how much you give, and no matter how much you sacrifice. At the end of the day, you cannot make somebody want something that they have already decided that they don't want. And that's what a stray cat taught me, sitting outside on break. Welcome to Articulated Illustration, where we see things from unusual angles. I'm your host, Dwane Richardson Sr. This podcast is sponsored by me. And if you want to invest in purpose and build something beautiful together, let's make it happen. Today, we're talking about what happens when your offer gets rejected.
Word of the day.
Appetite. A natural desire or craving for something. Now hold on to that word for a second, because I think it changes everything about how we interpret rejection. Now let's start with the honest part. Rejection hurts. I don't care how composed somebody seems on the outside. As humans, rejection lands, and especially when you know your intentions were clear, especially when you weren't asking for much in return. You try to help, they pull back, and you try to support, but they don't want it. You try to love somebody, and I mean really love them, and they leave anyway. And at first, you try to make sense of it. You go through the replay in your head. What did I miss? What could I have done differently? Was I too much? Or was I not enough? And somewhere in that replay, the rejection starts feeling like it was about the offer. And it starts feeling like it was about you. But I want to slow down right there, because those two things are not the same. Just because somebody walked away from what you brought does not mean that they walked away from your worth. The cat wasn't wrong, and most definitely my coworker wasn't wrong. The offer didn't match the appetite. And when you really sit down with that, it truly reframes a lot of pain. Some people don't want peace, and not because peace isn't valuable, because chaos and toxicity is so familiar. Some people don't want accountability. They want comfort. And some people do not want truth. Why? Because they want to feel like they are already and always right. But we know in the grand scheme of things, that's not possible. We're human. We make mistakes. We're not infallible. And here is something that I feel like it will take a lot of frustration and pressure from us. And what I'm saying is, it's not always about you. Sometimes it's about what they have decided to do. Sometimes it's about what they have decided they are willing to receive. And if we're not careful, we will spend years trying to feed people things they have no appetite for. And we are wondering why they keep walking away, wondering why they keep rejecting us, wondering why they don't appreciate what we are trying to give, especially when it comes from a place of love and concern, and it comes from the heart. So when the real issue was never the quality of what we were offering, it frustrates us. So you can offer encouragement, you can show up consistently, but you cannot manufacture hunger in someone who has decided that they are not hungry. And my illustrators, at least for me, that's a hard truth to swallow, especially when you're a person who tries to help people and you genuinely want to help. Because helping people feels natural to some, showing up feels natural, and giving feels natural. But no matter how good your intentions are, you still cannot make somebody hungry. And this is something that I have to constantly remind myself almost every single day because I cannot fight my DNA. It's in my nature to try to help people. But sometimes this is where the self inflicted comes in at. Now, here's where it quietly gets dangerous. We start measuring our worth by whether people accept what we give. If they stay, I must be valuable. If they leave, maybe I'm not. If they listen, I must be saying something worth hearing. If they ignore you, maybe I'm not. And I understand how that happens. It feels logical. It feels like genuine feedback, but it's a broken system. Because the moment you let someone else's response become the measure of your value, you have handed authority to someone who may not be qualified to hold it. Now, think about the things that people reject every single day: healthy relationships, honest advice, real opportunities, accountability, growth. People reject valuable things constantly, and not because those things lack worth, but because they lack the readiness to receive them. We have to remember that rejection alone is not evidence that something is wrong with what you offered. Sometimes it's just evidence that the other person wasn't ready for it. In the Bible, Matthew 7:6, it says, "Do not throw your pearls in front of swine." And that means do not give your energy or your advice to people who are not ready for it. Now, the flip side of that is, how do we know that the other person doesn't want it? That's the hard part. But I want to be careful here because this conversation can go sideways real fast if we're not honest with ourselves. This isn't just about other people getting it wrong. Sometimes we offer the right thing with the right heart, and we still miss. We give advice when somebody just needed to feel heard. We give solutions when somebody needed silence, and I have been guilty of that. We push for growth when somebody needed patience first, and we walk away frustrated because they did not receive it without ever asking whether or not we read the room correctly. Your heart and your motives and your intentions can be completely right, but your timing can still be off, my illustrators. Your delivery can still be wrong. And if we are real with ourselves, that's not a comfortable thing to sit with, but it's honest. And honesty is what separates wisdom from simply feeling justified. The cat may have needed food, but that cracker may not have been what it needed. Now that's worth remembering. So here's the harder conversation. At some point, you just have to stop chasing people, and not out of bitterness, and not because you have given up on them as human beings, but because there's a quiet kind of self erosion that happens when you keep offering yourself to people who have made it clear, not in words, but in patterns, that they are not interested. And some of us have been doing this for years, and I'm talking about myself once again. I give more effort, I give more patience, and I give more grace, and I give more explanations and even more chances. But they keep showing us the same thing over and over in the same quiet, subdued way. They're not interested. Not right now. Maybe not ever. So instead of receiving that as information and confirmation, we as humans, with our logic, we try to negotiate with it. We reframe it and we tell ourselves that if we just find the right approach, the right moment, and the right words, maybe something will finally shift. But my illustrators, that negotiation is too exhausting and it costs more than people realize. At some point, wisdom steps in and says, Stop throwing crackers where there's no appetite. Once again, not because the cracker is inherently bad, but because you are standing in the same spot, offering the same thing, and watching it get ignored. And then we have the nerve to call that loyalty, when it might be actually be a slow way of losing yourself. And that's where this gets complicated. Because it's easy for someone on the outside to say, stop giving so much. Stop being so available. Stop caring. But what if caring isn't something you do? What if it is something that you are? Now, that's a different conversation entirely for a different day, even maybe for a different episode. Because when you are wired that way, when generosity and loyalty and compassion are strategies that you deploy, but simply the way you move through the world, you don't offer people things. You offer them pieces of yourself. And every time those pieces get ignored, dismissed, or treated like they were never significant to begin with, it leaves something behind. Not just disappointment, something quieter than that. Something that starts making you question whether being this way is actually working against you. And not because you are weak, because your intentions are sincere, and once again, they are coming from the heart. But here's the part that doesn't get said enough. The people who hurt you don't just take something from you in that moment. If you're not careful, they slowly rewrite something that's in you. The loyal person that you are starts holding back. The honest person starts going quiet. And the scary part is, the compassionate person starts building walls they swore they would never build. And the world didn't just wound them. It convinced them to become someone else. And I think that's the real tragedy. Not the rejection, and not even the pain. The fact that enough of it can make you abandon yourself and make you abandon who you truly are. And the rejection can truly rewire and reroute your DNA. So, what do you do with all of that? I don't think the answer is to stop being who you are. And I heard that advice multiple times. And I don't think it holds up. And the reason being is because the version of you that stops caring, stops giving, stops showing up, that's not a healed person. That's just a protected one. And there's a huge difference. So I think the answer is to become wiser about where you pour who you are. Think about a gardener. Planting is in his nature, and it's not something that he decided to do. It's just simply who he is, his nature. But after seasons of watching seeds die in bad soil, he has to make a choice. Does he stop planting? Or does he become more careful about where he plants? So the answer is not stop being a gardener. The answer is stop returning to ground that has shown you repeatedly and without apology that it has no intention of growing anything at all. And that hurts. It truly does. So don't stop being loving, and don't stop being generous. And don't stop showing up for people who have actually shown you that they want to be shown up for. Just stop planting your best seeds in soil that keeps refusing them. Because what you carry truly matters. And the mistake isn't in carrying it. The mistake is believing that everyone deserves unrestricted access to it. The cat taught me something that I didn't expect to learn that morning. Not every rejection is a rejection of your worth. Sometimes it's a rejection of responsibility. And sometimes it's a rejection of change. And sometimes it's just simply a mismatch. So what you are carrying and what they are ready to receive, they just don't line up right now. But the thing that I keep coming back to is this. Don't let rejection turn you into someone that you were never supposed to be. Don't let disappointment make you cold and bitter and indifferent. Don't let being taken for granted convince you that generosity was the mistake. And don't let betrayal teach you that love was the problem. The problem was never who you are. The problem was where you were planting. Let's become wiser about where you pour that love. Let's become more discerning about who gets access to what you carry. Let's learn to protect the thing, not by locking it away, but by being more intentional about who you open it up for. The goal and the purpose was never to lose your heart. The goal is protected well enough that it's still there, still full. So when you find the soil that was always actually meant to receive it, it will be ready to be planted and to grow. If this episode sat with you and you know someone that needs to hear it because they may be getting rejected, because they are trying to feed somebody who doesn't want to be fed, or trying to plant seeds in soil that's not ready to be grown, share this with them. And always remember to do what's absolutely necessary every day and keep the pen in your hand. Why? It's your dreams, your goal. Keep illustrating your life. And until the next illustration, remember, be careful about where you try to plant your seeds. Be mindful of the soil. We'll talk later.